So on Thanksgiving Day, I spent a lot of time cleaning out these beds here you see behind me, and I actually put up a video about it a couple days ago, which I'll link to in the description below. It's something a little different. So as I was in here rooting around, digging around, cleaning everything out, I started noticing that I've got quite a bit of spurge in these beds, mostly right along the edges. The other thing that was interesting was I've been noticing a lot of spurge in and out of the crack and crevice areas here along my sidewalk. And you know, as I think about it, I get a lot of you guys asking about spurge. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break this video down into 3 segments, and you're gonna notice some overlap and similarity in all 3, but I'll go ahead and link in the description below to the different parts where you can skip to the one that matters to you most. So we're gonna talk all about spurge, and we're gonna talk about it in landscape beds, we're gonna talk about it in crack and crevice, and then we're gonna talk about it in lawns. So in order to kill spurge, we first have to understand where it grows. We've gotta learn its lifestyle so that we can attack it at the right point with the right product and the right strategy overall. All right, guys, so we're talking about whatever you want to call it. I hear all these different names, and I know there's a few differences or whatever, but it's prostrate spurge, spotted spurge, garden spurge, okay? In fact, here's a quick video where I can show you the difference in spotted spurge and garden spurge. Here is an excellent comparison. So here is typical garden spurge here, and here is spotted spurge here. And you can see the spotted spurge has just a little bit smaller leaf, and of course there are those telltale spots on the leaves, even though these aren't really showing very well, but there are spots there. All right, so first thing, let me apologize for my dirty fingernails. I've been all up in the garden, and so, you know, there's some stuff that you can't get out. Anyway, it'll wear off. So I've got a nice drawing that I did here already, and I did this ahead of time because a lot of you guys say that the Sharpies, they kind of jack around with your ears. So I started using the finer tips, but I did go ahead and do most of this ahead of time. So we've got our kind of calendar up here, makeshift, January, February, March, all the way through December. And then this is our kind of diagram of the lawn. So right here, we've got the lawn itself, we've got the soil surface line, and then anything below here is soil and roots. And then we got some facts. So a few facts that we need to understand about spurge. First thing is it's an annual. That means that when you see a plant, that plant will live for the season that you're seeing it. And then typically in winter, that's typically what happens. In winter, it dies off. Before it dies, though, it drops seeds, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Those seeds germinate when the soil temperatures hit about 75 degrees. Now, this is not outside temperature, guys. This is soil temps, right? It's when the soil temps are 75. So just because the air out here is 75, it's not going to be 75 down here yet. Depending where you live, that can be several weeks behind. Temperatures will vary by location and the surface. So when we're thinking about this, I'm just mainly talking about lawns right now, but think about in between patios and sidewalks where everything's surrounded by concrete. Concrete can absorb and hold heat longer and better. So temperatures may hit 75 in the cracks of your driveway or sidewalk before they hit 75 in your lawn. Vice versa, back against your house, things might be a little bit warmer in the landscape beds. If you have dark rock that can absorb heat, that will make the soil temps in the beds turn 75 faster than if you're using a mulch product. So just something to think about is 75 degrees, yes, but where are you talking about? Next, it does spread by seed, but think about this. It doesn't have one single drop. Once a plant germinates, it starts to drop seeds, and it'll flower multiple times throughout the year and continue dropping seeds, as well as seeds that have been in the soil or already there previous years will kind of come up at different times of the year. They're stimulated by different things. Some come up with more water, some come up with less water and more heat, some come up with being disturbed throughout the year. So you're always going to have germination throughout the year. So those are some of the things that we need to think about. Next, how are we going to control them? So we have 2 ways that we can control the spurge. We can control it pre-emergently, which is to get to it before they germinate, the seeds germinate, or we control it post-emergently, which is to put something on it that will kill it after it's already come up. So the key is that 75 degree mark. So wherever you live, when do soil temperatures hit 75 degrees? Just Google it if you're not sure. For me, here in kind of south central Florida, for me, temperatures are going to hit 75 in the soil around March. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that as my mark or my demarcation point to realize that my strategy may change both before and or after the March timeframe.
And as we used to say in the old days at True Green, if you see a weed, kill a weed. And the best way to kill a weed is to know a weed, know where it grows and where it lives and where it hides out.
So let me explain to you how a pre-emergent works. It's going to work the same whether it's a landscape bed, whether it's a crack and crevice, or whether it's a lawn, but we're going to use a lawn for an example just because it's just a little bit easier for me to illustrate. All right, so if I have a pre-emergent product, you can see I'm going to need to put it down pre or before the seeds germinate. So I'm going to put this down probably in late February or early March. So I'm going to put my pre-emergent down, and what the pre-emergent does is essentially it forms this barrier. It's a chemical and it sits kind of right here at the top of the soil line. You put this down either in liquid or granular form, depending. I typically use liquids, and it absorbs into the soil and it just kind of resides right there. I don't know if you can see that. Resides right there along the top of the soil line, and it's a chemical, and what that chemical does is it basically disrupts cell division. There's all these seeds down here underneath the soil, and of course you need some moisture, some water, and you're going to get that typically, and then they're going to start to germinate. And as they do, the way that after germination occurs, the way that plants move and the way that plants grow is they divide cells, and that's how they grow. And when it hits the chemical, this chemical disrupts cell division in very, very young plants, and so they just basically stop growing and they never form. And I wasn't 100% technical there, but you get the idea, right? So that's how a pre-emergent works. You put it down before they germinate. Now there are things that can stop a pre-emergent, right? The soil can get disturbed. That will stop the pre-emergent from working. Around edges where lawn meets driveway, you get a lot of heat and friction in there. That can, stop things from happening. And that's why a lot of times weeds will break through around edges. But either way, that's how a pre-emergent works.
Now, I don't need to tell you that my favorite method for eliminating these crack weeds is to use a propane torch. I'm not going to go into that too much in this video because I've done plenty of videos on that, but I will link below to a couple propane torches that'll work for you if this is a way that you would like to have fun eliminating spurge in the crack and crevice of your patios and sidewalks.
Alright, aside from the torch, the very best way to kill spurge and other weeds in crack and crevice is to use glyphosate 41%. Some of you guys will know that as Roundup, but make sure you get a 41% glyphosate product like this HDX here, which is the Home Depot brand. You're going to mix that according to label direction. Secondly, you're going to spike your mix with dithiopyr. Dithiopyr is a pre-emergent herbicide that we've used in the lawn for a long time to stop crabgrass, but it'll also stop other weeds, and it is labeled for spurge. The reason we spike it into the mix is because it stands to reason that if there's a spurge plant in one spot, it's dropped seeds that have worked their way into the surrounding crack and crevice. So by putting a little dithiopyr in there, not only are you going to kill the current weed with the non-selective herbicide 41% glyphosate, but you're next going to go ahead and prevent future weeds with the dithiopyr. You can also use this in your landscape beds very carefully. Remember, glyphosate will move and it will kill your ornamentals, but if you very carefully spot spray, ensure there's no rain within the forecast in the next 24 hours, this same mix will work great as a spot spray. When you do spray it in the crack and crevice, be mindful of how it does spread, especially when you're spraying close to the lawn. Again, if you've got rain in the forecast in the next 24 hours, my advice is not to spray because that glyphosate will move into the lawn and kill it. The other thing here is in a lot of cases I've taught you guys to spray with a fan tip nozzle and use the finest mist possible. That's not the case here. We want to get more of a concentrated spray here so we don't get any spread, and we want to keep it close to the ground so we can control where the product goes. We do want it to soak into the cracks just a bit, so it is okay to spray till you get a slight puddling action. So first off, your best offense is a really good defense, and that's why you see me, I let my beds get overgrown here. I've got them all cleaned out now, and I'm putting down a good, thick, 3-inch minimum layer of pine straw on one side and wood mulch on the other side.
In any landscape situation, there is no substitute for poor maintenance. So no situation, no strategy is going to succeed to keep weeds out without proper, at least monthly maintenance, but probably bi-weekly if you live in the South where there's a lot of rain and it's hot all the time. But there is nothing that can replace that constant maintenance of you patrolling, because the more young weeds that you get out, the less fully propagated seeds that get dropped, which then cause problems. In fact, you ever wonder why those black landscape mats never work? I know I hear that all the time. Let me tell you why.
All right, so let's do this real quick. I won't keep you guys forever here. So I've got it here. You got basically your soil line, right, like we had before, the black mat here, landscape fabric, and then your mulch or rock layer. So a lot of people think that this black mat's main purpose is to stop seeds that are underneath here from germinating, and that's not really the case. The black mat serves one purpose, and that is to help block the sun, because the sun is what's going to ultimately get these seeds in the soil to germinate. Believe it or not, sunlight can penetrate below ground, and it doesn't have to get very far in order to stimulate these seeds to grow. And that's essentially why your mulch is there as well, is to be another sunlight blocker and also help to dissipate or stop the heat in the process. Now, the reason I mention maintenance being so important is because what happens is seeds will blow from other areas or other places, and they'll land in whatever you have here, your mulch. This is where you've seen weeds growing up through your rocks or up through your mulch or on the side of the highway. They grow in the middle of the road, right? Weeds are very resourceful and they can do a lot of things. And if you don't get to them in time, they just keep dropping more seeds. And now your mulch here is a literal seed bed that is just festering itself in there, and you're getting more and more weeds that are breaking through. So it's not typically your landscape mat that's failing, it's you, and that you're just not keeping up with your proper maintenance. As previously mentioned, the weeds that do get away, or if you've got a few that are here and there that you can get to, you can use our same mix of glyphosate and dithiopyr to spot spray weeds in your beds and along the edges as well. So for the lawn, guys, you've seen me put down pre-emergents before. If you're putting down a pre-emergent for crabgrass or Poa annua, which are two of the main ones that we do use pre-emergents for, you're going to be covered well for spurge anyway.
So now let's go ahead and talk about some common weed controls that you can use as selective herbicides against spurge.
Now, the other side is if some of the spurge gets away from you and you start seeing it in the summer, what do you use as a selective herbicide to spray that's not going to hurt your lawn? Here are some of the common weed controls that you can use that will kill spurge. The key being you need to just make sure on the label that it's safe for your grass type. I'll also link below in the description to some products that you can use to go ahead and control spurge in your lawn.
At the end of the day, the strategy that you choose is going to be based on your site situation and really just what you're willing to take on. For me, I prefer the fire because it's chemical free, which is friendly to the environment, and you guys know I care about that when I can, and really, just to be honest, it's super fun. With that, I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for watching. I hope this tip's been helpful to you. Leave your comments and questions below, and I'll see you in the lawn.